My name is Leah Green. I am one of the senior account managers here with Intuit Canada, and I support the Northern Alberta region. I'd like to welcome our guest speaker today, Andrew Wall. He is an incredible individual. This is someone you will all learn a lot from, and I'm quite excited to hear his presentation today. Andrew is a chartered professional accountant and certified management accountant with over 15 years in accounting and IT development. He is the founder of WallCPA.ca, a cloud-based accounting firm focused on helping small businesses. WallCPA has been recognized by Intuit Canada as Firm of the Future and featured on the website firmofthefuture.ca. Now, for all of us today, you can submit questions throughout this webinar at any point through the chat box to the right, top-hand corner there. And I'd love to have everyone let us know who they are, say hi, tell us where you're calling from, and introduce yourself. And with that, Andrew, would you like to kick us off?
Sure, thanks, Leah. I appreciate the introduction. I will also encourage everybody to reach out and connect with me on social media. I'm a big believer in social media, both for lead and sales development, as well as for building relationships with peers in the network and to help learn and grow from each other. So if you want to reach out and connect with me, you can connect with me on Twitter at WallCPA. You can find me in LinkedIn under LinkedIn/IN/small business accountant. You can find me on Facebook under Andrew Wall, or just Google me under Andrew Wall. I'm a pretty easy guy to find, and I'm always happy to keep this conversation going and see how we can help each other grow and succeed. So with that said, maybe we'll kick into our session today. I'm going to open up the kimono a little bit here and share with you an experiment that I'm trying to do. I'm always looking to learn and grow and improve my skill sets. So one of the things I'm doing more and more of is public speaking. For those of you who've had to sit through me give a presentation at any of the conferences that we normally do, you know, my format is usually very free-flowing, not canned by any stretch of the imagination, and just dynamic. I've done a couple of sessions now, these webinar sessions, and I'm trying a new format where it's a little bit more canned, and so bear with me if it comes off as a little bit more canned, because it is a bit more structured for these sessions. I'd love to hear your feedback on this, and let me know if you're finding it too dry or too boring in the new format that I'm using, because it's definitely a little bit different from the different styles. But if we don't try new things and experiment, we certainly don't get better. But again, getting back to the purpose of today's session, it's really to share with you the insights that we've learned about the sales process. And for many accountants and bookkeepers, sales and marketing are the most difficult part of their job. However, if you want to own and run your own practice, you must learn to market and sell your services. And over the last 20 years, I've attended conferences, hired sales trainers, read countless books, and worked hard to continually perfect our own sales process. And today, our practice employs a variety of tactics and strategies to attract and retain over 100 corporate tax clients each and every year. And while I certainly don't pretend to have all the answers or be the best marketer, I do want to sort of share with you the strategies that we've developed over the last few decades to help us get better. So the specific tools and technologies that we use to attract and retain clients have certainly changed greatly over time. However, the core principles that we've used to grow our practice have not. And growing your practice, no matter what strategies and tools you implement, must focus on what I believe are the three core principles, which are: one, to identify and attract your audience; two, to nurture and retain your audience; and three, to close and wow your customers. Now we're going to talk about sort of the psychology of closing. I unfortunately won't really be able to get into how to wow your customers, other than to really tell you that I think it's an important part of the process to help you, again, identify and attract even more clients for your business. So over the next few minutes, I'll share with you some specific strategies that we use today for each of these core components. And you're going to notice that in a number of these sections, I do quotes or tweetables. I'm a big fan of quotes. So I'm not going to read them off to you because you guys can all read. I'm just going to start and dive right into this session. And if you like any of that content, again, feel free to tweet it, share it, big fan of social. I think it's great for everybody. So now diving into the sales and marketing process, it really is a funnel. And our goal at the top of the funnel is to identify a large target audience and then funnel that large audience down to a highly targeted group that can benefit from our services and eventually retain those individuals or clients to pay us to help them and to promote our services. So step one is to identify your audience. This sounds pretty simple, but it's often the most difficult part for small businesses and people who are just starting out. And many people who first launch their business think that they need to target the entire market and take whatever clients walk through their door. I was personally guilty of this myself when I first launched my own practice. But I've also learned that when you focus on a niche, you can really pinpoint your marketing and do a lot more of an effective job of growing your practice. And no matter what niche you use or don't use, the first step is to really develop some targeted content. And if you create targeted content, you create the opportunity to create an appropriate message that will help you to shepherd or guide your audience through the sales process in every step of their journey. For example, depending upon where your audience is in their buying process, you might develop content that is either one, raises awareness by helping them understand what your company does and what you understand is a particular set of problems that they face, or two, it might promote discovery by drawing their attention to the fact that your company has products or services that are necessary to solve their problems. Three, it could help foster comparisons by allowing your company to showcase its knowledge, expertise, or high quality products and services, thus differentiating you from the competitors. Or lastly, it can help you to encourage a sale by providing the right information to ensure that that target has everything he or she needs to confidently purchase your products or services. And the tone of your message, as well as how often you communicate it, will vary depending upon where in this process your target is. And I recognize that developing this kind of targeted content might seem overwhelming, but I want to remind you that if you want to eat an elephant, it all starts with one bite. And if you just start with one piece of content, it's really easy to take that and to recycle it or update it to a specific part of the process or to a specific target market. You can also search for good content online and find ways to sort of repurpose that for your specific audience or the phase in the sales cycle that they're at. I also encourage you to explore new avenues and formats. We're always doing that, and right now video is huge for us. You've probably hopefully seen some of our stuff that we're putting up on Facebook and Instagram with these videos, like the one we also did one for Chata as they were going through their app partnership. We're going to be doing a couple right now to let you guys know, any of you who will be attending QB Connect in San Jose. Practice Ignition is throwing a great party, so we're just on a couple of videos. And we're experimenting and trying this new targeted content in a new format. And I think that that's really important, is no matter what you're doing when it comes to targeted content, that you explore and test new mediums. And of course, the most important part is to actually track the analytics and to see if it's actually working. And again, on this video side, the video which has been videos that have been doing really well, we have one that we just did, which is actually a person in a tutu doing a really bad job of ballet. And the purpose of the ad is to tell them, focus on what you do best, hire a professional to do the rest. And that individual video seems to be tracking really well. So we know that type of content around letting us take over the dirty work that they don't want to do is tracking really well with our client base. Now, I know how hard it is to work and grow your business and how many hours you have to spend to actually do that. And I also know that not many of you have the hours to dedicate to your marketing to increase the actual traffic and awareness and strengthen your brand. But the truth is for many that there just aren't enough hours in the day. So there's ways to solve this and to create a business that works around the clock for you to market your business and still reach your desired goals. And to me, that's about influencer marketing. And influencer marketing isn't necessarily, to me, what you might think of as traditional digital influencer marketing, like you see Facebook influencers. It's more about finding these one-to-many relationships. And what I mean by that is finding people or businesses that have the ability to refer many customers to you. This could be lawyers, bankers, insurance companies, or for bookkeepers, other accountants. For us, it's historically been staffing agencies. And the first step in your influencer strategy is to really determine who you're looking for. And you want to identify who could and would want to benefit from referring customers to you. And once you sort of profile them, you need to find a way to target them and market to them, obviously. And for us, it was, again, around social media, because working with staffing agencies as our one-to-many relationship, we knew that they were all on LinkedIn as the primary source of social media, which was our first channel. And of course, you want to figure out how you're going to engage with them in a way that adds value. So some of the things that we do for our staffing agencies that we work with is we offer them a number of free workshops. We do lunch and learn sessions. We do webinars that we host on Facebook Live. And we offer our help to support these agencies in basically any way we can, because we know that this creates this feeling of reciprocation. And when we help an agency, they in turn want to help us by making a referral or a recommendation for us. So our influencer strategy is definitely aligned to our referral strategy. And I think everyone on this call sort of understands the importance of generating referrals. And my biggest gripe about financial professionals is that for many of them, this is all the marketing that they do. And they don't particularly do it well either. They sort of simply sit back, hope to do a really good job, and hope that their customer will make a referral on them. And they never really reach out and ask them for that referral. And I did a whole sales training program with a company called Sandler Training. And this was a really heavily focused referral marketing strategy. And I wasn't a huge fan of the entire structure and program, because a lot of it was about reaching out to your customers and asking them for that referral. And I do think that there's value in it, but I'm not the type of person that's going to call every one of my clients and say, hey, can you give me 3 people that you could recommend that would enjoy our services? I find it a little bit too aggressive for my personal approach. So what I do, yes, I said do, is I ask each and every client to rate us on how likely they are to refer a friend or a colleague. And if they give us a rating of 8 or higher, I send them a personal request, personally automated request, asking for a Google review. In fact, this is becoming such an important part of our process that I've even hired other people in this industry who I know are doing it well to consult and help me do it better. So I've actually hired Bob Wang, who I think is doing a really good job with reviews, to help me improve my SEO and to work on my review process. And now, in addition to just asking for that review, he helped us to sort of customize and tailor the content of that message in the email that we send out to them. And we now make sure that we send it out at least 3 times before we give up. And this has made a huge difference and a huge impact on the number of testimonials that we have. And these testimonials are huge for us because they're seen by thousands of people. And there's a stat out there that says 84% of people will actually trust an online review as much as they'll trust a review of a friend. And people who come from a referral or a testimonial are 4 times more likely to retain your services. So this really is an effective and cheap strategy to help you grow your practice. And it makes it easier to build trust and easier to ultimately close your clients that have been referred. So referrals could include referrals from clients. They could include referrals from your influencers that we mentioned earlier. They could include referrals from your digital testimonials. But no matter what your strategy is, it's something that you really have to be proactive at and reach out and not just rest on your laurels and assume that if you're doing a really good job, that referrals and testimonials are going to flow in organically. It is something that you have to spend time and energy dedicated to growing. So we've got another quote here, a little bit break as we go into our next section, because once you've actually identified and attracted your audience, the next step is to nurture and retain that audience. And I believe this is important because not every person that you're able to identify in your niche will actually need your services today, but you do want to engage and retain that audience so that when you do need assistance, they think of you. And the 3 strategies for engaging and nurturing an audience, in my opinion, are social media, lead magnets, and drip marketing. And we're going to dive into those. And I think if you do them effectively, you can keep that sales pipeline full so that you are always ready to grow and expand your business. So when it comes to nurturing relationships, I'm a little bit biased here, but I think social media is the best. It's a cheap and easy way to stay in front of your audience on a regular basis. And for us, as I mentioned earlier, we started with LinkedIn because our influencers, the staffing agencies, were active on that platform. So it was a very obvious platform for us to start with. And we were very active ensuring that we posted every single day so that when recruiters were online, they were likely to see content from us. But as our social media journey sort of evolved, we moved on to other platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we were able to actually build those relationships across multiple channels. And we were able to build stronger relationships and greater trust, which ultimately turned into more referrals and leads for our business. However, big caveat here, as amazing as I think social media is, and as important as I think it is to your sales and marketing strategy, it is social media marketing, not social media sales. And it'll help you to attract and engage your audience, but on its own, it's not going to grow your business. And I think what you need to do that is have a critical element to grow your business, which would be a list of prospects. And the best ways that we found to do this is with lead magnets. And a lead magnet is simply some element of value that your prospect receives in exchange for their contact information and permission to stay in contact with them. This could be white papers, which are pretty common, calculators, which I see a lot in our industry, or for us, the big thing that we rely on is our free consultation. And for us, this is the ultimate goal that we drive a lead to, is to book that free consultation. In fact, it's the only tool that we actually put a financial measure on when it comes to ROI. And this is a value that we assign that's based on the lifetime value of our client. We take the lifetime value of our client, then we multiply that by our close ratio, and then we say everyone who actually books a free consultation, the value of that free consultation is our close ratio multiplied by the lifetime value. So we can then evaluate the money that we're spending on the different sales and marketing strategies that we use, how effective that they are. And while I do think ebooks and newsletters are an important part of the toolkit, and we do measure the effectiveness of them, we don't assign a financial value to those, because the purpose of those and the drip marketing that they ultimately lead to is to drive people back to that free consultation. So for us, the only conversion that ultimately matters for our business and for us is a free consultation. Again, I don't assume that that's the only way to do it or necessarily the best way to do it, but I want to show you and share with you the journey that we're doing and how we're measuring and tracking that conversion ratio. So once you have a list and permission to stay in contact with that list, you need to do just that. You need to stay in contact with them. Send regular correspondence that adds value to your prospect. And drip marketing, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's simply the act of staying in contact. It can be automated, and we use a product called Infusionsoft. You can also do it with MailChimp. It can even be done manually. But the most important thing to do is make sure that it's consistent both in brand, but also in timing, so that you are having this regular engagement and communication with your customers. And for us, we have several different drip marketing campaigns, and each campaign has a specific message and a specific plan for it. And we spend a lot of time working on that plan and working on that messaging and refining that plan as we evaluate and adjust. For example, if someone actually downloads our free white paper on the benefits of incorporation, we'll do a whole drip marketing campaign on the things that they can do to set up and structure that company properly. And the call to action in these campaigns is different from other ones because it's more about, again, driving them back to booking that free consultation, as I mentioned earlier. However, we have a completely different drip marketing campaign for those clients that have actually already come in for a free consultation. And the content in this campaign is targeted more around the benefits of having a business and less about how to structure one. And the call to action in this is completely different. It's now focused on signing up now and includes some time-sensitive offers, which we'll look at and talk about in our next section on how to actually close a deal. So if you've actually done a good job of attracting and retaining your clients, you now need to actually close them. And probably the hardest part of the sales cycle for many financial professionals is actually asking for that sale. But if you don't ask, you'll never get. And nurturing your clients and adding value throughout the nurturing process is critical to building trust and confidence. You really have to actually ask for that sale with a strong call to action. And when it comes to closing the deal, what we found to be effective is sort of three main strategies, which we're going to talk about in this section. And that's making it the client's decision, 2, creating a sense of scarcity, and 3, starting big and selling small. But before we dive a little deeper onto what I mean by those sections, I want to take a pause out of this session, to come back and do a little bit of a poll here. So I think, bear with me a second, and I'll also open this up for questions at this point in time while we're running this poll. So if people want to ask a few questions while we go through this poll, this is probably a great time. So bear with me. Oh, it's running. Sorry. I guess Leah must have launched that poll for me. Thank you, Leah. So we'll give it a few minutes as we collect our responses. And the good news is that we're flying through on really good time here, folks. So I think we'll have lots of room at the end to give you guys some time back on your lunch or to open this up for any Q&As that you guys might have. Again, you know, the big message I want to say here is everyone's going to have sort of a unique sales process. There are core elements that are really going to be the same across everyone's program, whether you're someone who is just starting out with a small number of clients, whether you're a larger established business. The difference is really going to be in the level of automation and the level of process that you have, but the concepts are really going to be the same no matter what you do, which is to identify and attract that audience, nurture that audience, and then actually close them in a call to action. And of course, we think that the best way to do that is with an in-person meeting, because there is certainly a lot of psychology behind selling. Oh, we're sharing the poll results right now. So it looks like a lot of people are really struggling with how to identify and attract their audience. Next is nurturing and retaining your audience. It's interesting that the smallest group is closing your customers, because I would have actually guessed that a lot of people struggle with the actual close and call to action. So I might take a minute to circle back with how to identify and attract your audience. I think there's a number of ways to do this. The key, again, I really strongly believe in this concept of niche marketing. All the digital marketing and sales that is being done right now allows you to highly target a market, whether you're talking about Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, and Google ads even allow you to target an audience more based on keywords. But the first step, if you really want to target and acquire your clients, is to know that. And I know it's a cliche, but it really is a cliche for a reason, because it is so critical. And in our experience, you know, having worked with CPA for IT, which is a highly targeted field, and Wall CPA, which went out and was a lot more broad, I know that the benefits of being niche are really huge, because the other thing that you're going to get out of niche, and coming back to this idea of referrals, which I think are so critical for accountants and bookkeepers, it's been the largest form of referrals for decades. It probably will continue to be the largest form of business or new clients for accountants and bookkeepers in the future. But when you're in a niche, you've got a higher propensity for getting those referrals, because people work within their circles, within their own niches, and keep friendships and relationships with people in those niches. So they often have the opportunity to become that influencer for you and to become the advocate of your services and be able to recommend or endorse you to more people that have a need for your specific field of expertise, because they know people in that field of expertise. So it's hard to start off in that niche focus, because I know when you're first starting out and you need to get those sales to keep the money flowing so that you can keep the lights on. But the more that you can actually take the effort into focusing on a niche, turning away those clients that aren't a great fit, and focusing solely on those ones in those niche, the more success that you're going to have, and it becomes a snowball. It builds on itself, and it builds on itself, and it builds on itself. And that's what I think you really need to do to get to that next level to help you with acquiring and growing your audience. But with that said, I'm now going to jump into the next section, which is more about closing your customers. So unfortunately, this is the area that had the least um, number of people who felt that this was a big concern for them. But I personally hate the used car salesman approach to selling, and I personally prefer the sort of soft sell approach that focuses on making this a decision for the client. And a lot of the soft sales processes are about psychology. And I'm going to dive into sort of 3 areas that I think are critical to this type of a sales approach. And first, I'm going to talk about buying on emotion. And in most industries, too much emphasis is sort of given to this, what they call speeds and feeds, which is shorthand for quickly telling people how something works and or the information or services that you offer that they need to make an intelligent business decision. But that's the first place where I think a lot of companies get it wrong. And you need to first understand what the pains that your prospect is feeling or what pleasure that they're trying to move towards. Because clients really only buy services for 2 reasons. 1, they want to move towards pleasure, or 2, they're trying to move away from pain. So taking the time to know and understand that will help you to be able to close those deals faster and more effectively. Next, I want to look at buying versus the idea of being sold. And buying can certainly be a fun process, and the best companies in the world know this and give you the space that you actually need to enjoy the buying experience, because no one really wants to be sold. And there is a big difference between buying versus being sold. And if we look at sort of the used car salesman approach or analogy, we've all been pounced on by that aggressive salesperson, maybe not necessarily a car salesman, but someone who's looking to make a quick close. And you can, feel that they're pressuring you for that sale. And being sold feels terrible because you're not really confident that you're making the right buying decision when you can spot all these sales tactics and strategies that are being thrown at you. So to that end, I want to look to the last strategy, which is to look at the know, like, and trust, which I think is what ultimately drives sales in our industry, because people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And this is why the best salespeople go through that simple but powerful process of getting to know their prospects and increasing their sort of likability factor and building trust. So taking the time to get to know your potential buyers, it might feel a bit daunting at first because it does require a little bit more effort. It does require to put yourself out there. But the simplest way to get to know people is to find out the ways that you can add value first before you ever try to sell them anything. And using this model, you can immediately remove that sort of sales barrier and instead focus on where you add value, and get to know the person that you'd actually like to do business with. And this will ultimately organically build that know, like, and trust factor, which is going to drive that sales using this soft sales approach that I use. Again, as I said, there are other approaches, and I'm not saying that hard sales approach doesn't work. I personally don't like it. I personally don't have any experience with it because it's not the strategy that we use. Now, that being said, we do still use some psychology, and we use the sense of scarcity. Now, I know some people are not a big fan of using scarcity as a sales tool. However, I think it's a very important tool, and when used ethically, it can be very effective. So let's start with what scarcity is. I think probably many of you are familiar with this, but I'll take a second just to explain. Scarcity refers to any limitation placed on a product or service with the goal of increasing the sales through pressure placed on the consumer. And that's, I think, where people get a little bit hesitant in using this, is the pressure that it does create. And the fear of missing out causes people to make the buying decision. The limitation can either be a time-based deadline or a limited quantity deadline. And sometimes these are even mixed, and they create some kind of perceived benefit for acting quickly, like a reduced price, a bonus item, or some form of increase in status, like you get in where others missed out type of concept. So let's look at a few ways that scarcity is created. So one of the common ones that we see in our industry are webinar promos. So these are a great example of scarcity-driven selling, where you have a webinar that offers the chance to teach and give away free value to a live audience. But then there's an offer that's made with that webinar that's only available during the webinar. And it's obviously usually a time-dependent limitation made directly to people in that webinar and in that moment. And limited time or limited quantity offers are really common examples of scarcity. And we've all seen or made a buying decision based on limited time offers. I know I have. I mean, the pricing of the QB Connect conference ticket that I bought probably recently is a perfect example of both limited time and limited quantity. I think the one caveat here is that it's really important that when you apply scarcity, that you justify it. You need to have really a sort of a believable reason for offering that limited quantity deal. Could be because you have a limited number of the products or services. It could be because you have a limited number of seats at your event. It could be because you've got a short time frame. One of the ones that we're working with right now when it comes to scarcity is a little bit different, and it's a time-based discount, but a time-based discount in the opposite direction that you would normally expect. We are now offering incentives to our clients to bring their information in earlier. What that means is there is a premium to clients who want to bring us in their information closer to the deadline. And the closer it is to the deadline, then the higher the premium. Now, our customers are told well in advance of how much our turnaround time is and what amount of time that we need to get a file completed in a reasonable, in a standard sort of process. But we can complete files in our sort of standard process by allowing clients to jump the queue. And if you want to jump the queue and go ahead of all the other clients in our workflow, then there's going to be a premium associated with that. And that's one of the upsells that we're going to talk about now in our sort of start big and sell small concept. Because the last piece of sales psychology that I want to share with you today is about starting big and selling small. And this is about sort of framing your pricing. Many of us are using value pricing these days and have what they call the sort of Goldilocks pricing, where you have, I don't care what you call it, but it's usually a small, a medium, and a large. But how you present these offers can have a huge impact on your ability and your close ratio. And that's one thing that I think is really critical to measure as well, is what is your actual close ratio? You should be measuring and tracking that. So getting back to this concept of the psychology behind starting big and selling small is that if you actually start with your largest package in your Goldilocks pricing, with all the bells and whistles and all the great value that you're offering there, but the highest price, when you go into your next options, your medium and your small, everything will seem cheaper by comparison. And this is how you're sort of framing the conversation. You're starting big and working down towards the small. Because on the flip side of that, if you start with the cheapest, which is actually our natural inclination, we often go from left to right, from small to big. But if we start with the cheapest, everything will seem expensive by comparison. And if our prospects don't choose our largest package, which is quite possible, we still have the opportunity to create future opportunities to move them into these larger packages or to upsell them on additional products or services that we have. Because it's always easier and cheaper to sell a client on a second product or service than it is to sell them on that first product. So lastly, I really want to point out to the idea of this concept of a loss leader. And this is a product that usually has thin or no margins. And it's created to enable you to get that first sale so that you can do upsell opportunities and add additional products and services. You know, the great example of that are grocery stores that do that with bread or milk. They use this to get you into the store so that while you're there, you're going to buy other services. Shoppers Drug Mart does it really well. I know because my brother-in-law does the pricing for Shoppers Drug Mart, and they make no money on their bread and milk. But cough syrup, they definitely make money on their cough syrup and their Sudafed. And we do it ourselves, and we do it with setup packages and incorporation packages. We offer these services at a deeply discounted price because we know that people who use these services are going to need someone to help them with their accounting and bookkeeping. However, like all marketing, you really need to test and measure everything to see if loss leaders like this are really effective for your individual business. Sometimes they might be just that, just losses, and not ultimately lead to those upsells and those other opportunities that you can do to further grow your business. So with that, once you've actually demonstrated the value to your clients and move from prospect to customer, the process doesn't end there. In the first 90 days is when your new customer is most likely to recommend or refer another prospect to you. So this is the time that you really want to wow or delight your customers. You know, think of sending them a welcome package with a small, it can be very inexpensive gift, but it's that little thing that's going to wow them that they're not anticipating that's going to make a huge impact for them. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the highest probability of getting that second referral or recommendation is in the first 90 days. And so they're really going to be happy to write that review or testimonial for you in those first 90 days. So part of wowing them and impressing them in that first 90 days includes, again, circling back to this idea of asking them for that referral and those testimonials, because you don't want to forget to ask for it, because just like I said earlier, if you don't ask, you won't actually get. And it looks like I've definitely wrapped a little earlier than anticipated. These are the joys of going scripted versus unscripted. Had I had a little bit more time, I might have been able to measure that a little bit better. But why don't we open up for a little Q&A here? And again, I'll circle back to some core areas that I think are really critical. And maybe it'll give us time again to talk about ways that you can wow your customers. And again, this comes back to drip marketing. I'd love to see if people are chatting in the panel here. I'm going to try and open up our chat, see if people are texting there. But I'd love to know from people, if you're struggling with identifying and finding new clients, which seems to be the biggest problem that most people are struggling with, what are you doing right now to identify them? How are you actually reaching out? Because there's a number of different ways and approaches that people can use. Digital marketing is a new element that a lot of cloud accountants are focusing on with social media, paid advertising, SEO, those types of things. But that's not to say traditional advertising, putting on webinars, going to board of trades, networking, building relationships is an important part of it. And what I can tell you is, for us, we have a three-pronged approach. For us, we drive sales fairly equally balanced from three different places. One, from referrals from our existing clients, which make up about a third of our new clients. Two, from referrals from our influencers or the staffing agencies, or those one-to-many relationships that we have. And three, from digital or social media marketing. At any one month, one of those may peak or valley, but over the course of the year, we do have a fairly well-balanced approach to all three of those. I think the big question for those of you who are struggling with this process is, where are you struggling? Are you struggling with the traditional? Are you struggling with the digital? And how can you reach out and get help in those areas? So there's a number of different sessions. I know my big ask of everyone is, come out and participate in the communities, the Facebook communities, come out and participate in the events, the conferences, because this is where you're going to meet other professionals who are doing it really well. You're going to have the ability to participate in other sessions like this that are focused more specifically on the acquiring new clients, because that sounds like that's an area of demand for you guys, is how do we actually reach out and acquire? And digital marketing, like I said, for us is 1/3. And I know that I am personally going to be doing some specific sessions on digital marketing, I think in December, that will focus and go into search engine optimization and paid ad in more detail than we can obviously cover today, because it is a very in-depth section. But I think that there's other sessions on how you actually go out and network. And I know that it can be hard for accountants many of us are introverts, and going to a networking event and talking to people is sometimes not the easiest thing to do, but it can be great. Webinars are an amazing way to grow your practice. It's just critical to sort of figuring out what are the elements that you can add value to who your community is. So as we said earlier, first of all, you have to know who your community is and know what value you can add to that community, and then build a webinar around that and share that with everyone you know. Ask everyone you know to share that with everyone they know. Get the media out. Spend a few bucks, try a few bucks on some digital ads to get the message out. And if you get no one on your session, if you get only a handful of people, post that out on Facebook Live or YouTube Live so you have the ability to reuse that content and the time and energy that you've spent, and to again create that more brand awareness and that focus. People might not watch the entire webinar if they see it on social media live, but they might remember that and reach out and connect for future webinars. The other thing is to make sure that you have a tool that you use for people to be able to book those webinars. The tool that we use is Eventbrite. Just falling short of the name there. So Eventbrite is a great tool for being able to schedule your webinars. And again, gives you a whole audience that you can market to, because people come onto Eventbrite and look for different sessions that are being hosted. Those can be virtual, which more and more we're doing like we're doing today. They can be in person. Again, it's going to depend on your client base and what works best for your individual needs. You lost my audio. Oh no. I wonder how long that's been going on. Can people hear me? Leah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Andrew, we had another question in there from Christine.
Okay.
So Christine asks, my main struggle is learning to say no thank you. I'm trying to attract certain customers / industries. Don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or potentially hurt my brand, especially if they come to me from a referral. How would you divert these clients?
You know, I think there's two ways to do it. One way that we always hear at conferences is price them out of the equation. So you can simply set a price level that you know that they probably aren't going to take. Or what I prefer to do is to really find and identify someone who's a better fit for them and make a referral on to someone else. I get clients that are not necessarily a fit for our niche, and I have built up relationships with other accountants and professionals in our network, and I'll make that referral on to someone else. So I think this is, again, showing the importance of having a network of peers that you work with, because one, you'll be able to refer on that client to someone that can actually add value to them, which they will appreciate. And that means that when they do identify someone who is in your field of expertise, they'll make that recommendation on to you because they know what you do and they know that you don't take clients that aren't in your field. Now, the person that you send that referral on is going to want to reciprocate as well. And when they get clients in your niche and field, they'll want to send those back to you in turn. So it's, in my opinion, the absolute best way is to just say, you know what, I don't think I'm the right fit for you because it's not what I specialize in. And I think that I have a better person that can help you with that. So why don't you reach out and speak to them. And even if your referral has come from, or even if the person has come from a referral, the person who's making the referral will appreciate that you're letting them know when someone is not a right fit. Because the worst thing that you can do to damage a influencer relationship is to take on a client that you can't service effectively and then potentially damage that relationship not only with that individual, but also with that potential influencer or referral source. So I hope that answers the question. Now we've got a few more minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a few more minutes, so if there's any other questions, feel free, post them in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that.
Now, Leah, I mean, you work with a lot of accountants across the board. Where do you see most accountants falling down when it comes to acquiring new clients?
What I see the most is a lot of my accountants and bookkeepers, they don't know where to look and where to start before they even have the conversation.
So what do you mean, like where their clients are?
They don't know where to find new clients to even try and either invite them to an event or, you know, invite them to at all. They don't necessarily find.
Yeah, well, again, you know I'm biased, but I'm going to come back to social media as being a great tool for this, because 72% of the entire population are on Facebook. So if you know who your clients are, they are on Facebook. And so experiment with some ads and experiment with reaching out and connecting with them. And I think the big thing is actually reaching out. So when you're on Facebook, when you're on LinkedIn, The way I grew my network was going through my list of people, and LinkedIn is the best because LinkedIn gives you these list of potential people that you might know through your connections, and scrolling through those lists and trying to find people in there. Now, don't do what I hate, which is the minute you find someone, you reach out and you make a connection with them, and then you turn around and try to sell them something. What I do love is reach out and add some sort of value with no request whatsoever. Just here's something that I thought you might be of interest. I noticed that you're a contractor and you could benefit from knowing more around personal service business. So I thought I'd share with you this article on personal service business. I hope you have a great day. If I can ever help, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me any questions. So LinkedIn is a great channel. Facebook is another great channel because everyone's on there and it's really cheap and effective to do highly targeted advertising. So those are two channels that I think are really effective. I think boards of trade, I hear over and over again, are really effective tools. And going out, if you are a bookkeeper, connecting with other accountants, because accountants, many of them don't want to do bookkeeping. So that can be a great relationship for you. And on the flip side, accountants can make relationships with bookkeepers because bookkeepers often don't do tax. So they're looking for an accountant to partner with. So finding those synergies and those influencers, as I call them, is probably the best way to grow in your business.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. A couple more questions. So Michelle asks, how do you identify and connect with influencers, and can you say who they are? One point I will definitely make to this, Michelle, is reach out to your account manager with Intuit if you're working with one. They are a great resource to leverage. I know I connect a lot of my clients with each other, with specific influencers or specific other members. And then I'm sure Andrew's got some great insight on that as well.
Yeah, I think the hard part here is it really depends what you're doing, like whether you're a bookkeeper or whether you're an accountant or whether you're just a small business. So what is the type of business that you're offering? Because that's going to really depend on who your influencers are. Some of the classic ones that have been, that we see time and time again for financial professionals are bankers. So go out and build a relationship with your banker, because the first thing someone does when they set up a business is they create a corporate bank account. So when they create a corporate bank account, they're often looking for an accountant or bookkeeper. So building that relationship with your banker is a great one. Another thing that's often done is the incorporations might be done by lawyers. So find a lawyer who does incorporations. That can be a great referral source for you, and can also be a referral back to them with, estate planning, which is more and more an important issue. So bankers, lawyers, insurance companies are great pretty much across all niches. And then again, for you, it will really depend on where you focus. In almost every industry or niche that you focus on, there's some form of trade organization, and participate in those. One of the things that we participate in is something called NACCB. So this is the National Association of Computer Consulting Businesses. So this is basically a lobby group for staffing agencies. And we volunteer our time and we go and we participate in this organization. But it's helped us build tremendous relationships with all the CEOs and presidents of the major staffing agencies across the country that create multiple one-to-many relationships for us. So that's a one-to-many relationship. And there's always some sort of group or organization for whatever industry that you're in. Maybe that's just user groups, maybe that's just Facebook groups. Whatever it is, finding those groups is I think, a big step.
Amazing. Now, Caitlin here asks, how do you break into a new niche? I've never had a restaurant client, but I would like to.
So, what I would say for breaking into a new niche is difficult. I'm not going to, butter you up on this one and tell you, oh, it's just easy. Just go out and knock on a couple doors and build customers. You're really going to have to find someone that has a need, probably someone who's just starting out, and offer to do it at maybe a lower price than you would normally do it, to build that experience and that credibility. And as you do a great job for them, they'll probably, like I said, people in niches tend to keep circles with and friends with other people in that industry, and they'll spread that word of mouth. Of course, the key is you've got to go out and find a way to connect with that very first client. And the best way to do that is to reach out to your friends and ask them if they know anyone in that field that could benefit from your services, and be prepared to maybe take a bit of a wash on that first client so that you can build that trust and that credibility in the industry. And I know when I attended Thrival, which is a organization by Jason Bloomer, and he was talking about breaking into the consulting industry. And he had a great exercise that he did in that group where he literally said, okay, write down 3 people that you think either would be good consulting businesses themselves or would know other consulting businesses. And then everyone take a 15-minute break and go and call those 3 people. So that would be my number 1 recommendation for you right now, is to write down 3 people that you know who are either in the restaurant business or know someone in the restaurant business, and reach out to them and tell them that that you have a passion for this and you're looking to branch into this as a field of expertise, and go out and connect with them. I think the other thing that you can do is start putting together a bunch of content. We talked earlier about targeted content. So writing blogs and content around that community. One, this will build your knowledge in the field and also build your credibility. The key, I would say here, is that when you're breaking into an industry, you really need to get those blogs posted on external sites. So there's no point in just writing a blog and putting it on your site where you're not getting any traffic. What you want to do is then write a blog and then reach out to a magazine or an online publication within that niche, and work with someone in that field to ask them if you can write and develop content for them, which will help build your credibility as an expert in that field. So I hope that helps.
About trying to cast a wider net of industries where she's looking for people such as massage therapists, nutritionists, personal trainers, etc. And she's tried some Facebook marketing, but would like to find where these people find their conventions that they go to, etc. So where would you recommend she search?
Well, search Google and look for massage therapy conferences, and which would be a great one. I guarantee you that there's places where people are going to get training and support to become massage therapists. Go to the education and training institutes that teach these people on and give them their licenses to become licensed massage therapists, and reach out and connect and build relationships with those people. Sponsor events and do things with them is a great way to sort of build and grow that. So that being said, I don't specialize in the massage therapist industry, so I don't know of any individual ones off the top of my head. But start with Google and look and do your search as if you were a massage therapist. So do a search on how to become a massage therapist. Do a search on how to build a massage therapist industry or business, and how to get massage therapy clients. And then you'll start to find articles and content and sites devoted to that content, and then reach out and connect with them. Say, hey, I'm an accountant that specializes in this field and wants to specialize in this field. I'd love to do some joint content with you to add value to your community. Would you be interested?
Amazing. And one more from Michelle. She says, what kind of leads do you get from social networks?
So from social networks, for me personally, I get a number of different types of leads. One that's grown quite large for me is other accountants and bookkeepers and professionals, which has come out of a lot of my speaking engagements like this. I also get a lot of people that drive over to my website. So the purpose of my social media is to either take people from my website or my existing client base and sort of nurture that relationship, or 2, take brand new relationships where people are connecting with me for the very first time and drive them over to my website, and then get them converted with one of my lead magnets, which might start with something about, what is personal service business risk and how do I protect myself. We've got a whole bunch of lead magnets around personal service business risk. We've got lead magnets around incorporation. And that gets us into that drip marketing campaign where we can communicate with them. And then the goal is really to get them into our actual leads and client base. And I know that right now, so last week, and this does, like I said, it ebbs and flows every week. And social media it's amazing, like I said, for branding and awareness and marketing. It's not huge on sales compared to other formats, but it does drive direct sales. So last week, we had 6 conversions. And as I mentioned earlier, I consider a conversion to be someone who's reached out and booked a free consultation. And according to Google Analytics, 2 of those came from social media, and 2 of them came from organic SEO. So these are turning into real, tangible clients that are specific to our industry.
There's any more questions? We might be able to have time for one more before we wrap things.
You're breaking up a little bit for me there, Leah. Can I get you to repeat that? Yep.
Perfect. I apologize. In the interest of time, since we do have a few more minutes, we can maybe take one more question if there are any more, as we're coming up to the end here before we wrap things up. Oh, Michelle asks, do you subscribe to Google Analytics?
Yes, I think Google Analytics is a necessity. Again, I am going to be doing a session on Google Analytics. I don't think it's until next June, unfortunately. I think Google Analytics is critical. This is going to help you figure out what marketing is working well, whether that's your organic SEO, whether it's your paid search on Google, whether it's your paid ads on social media, whether it's your organic ads on social media. It's critical, and the most important thing when you're using Google Analytics is to set it up properly and to make sure that you are tracking conversions. And a conversion can be anything from the amount of time someone spends on your website to a specific page that you go to. For us, how we track the conversions, for us is, like I said, the big conversion that we track. We do track conversions on all of our lead magnets, but the big one we track is the free consultation. We do all of our bookings of our free consultations through Calendly, and we have Calendly redirect to a thank you page, and then we consider that thank you page to track our conversions. And then by doing that, Google Analytics can tell us how many of those conversions are coming from social media, how many are coming from organic, and then you can even break that down from different keywords that people are searching. And this is really what's going to help you to amplify that digital marketing strategy, because it's really going to be a lot about trial and error when it comes to digital marketing. And the only way you can do trial and error is if you actually have analytics to be able to measure what the results of your different trials are. And it's free.
Well, thank you.
Why wouldn't you do it? Thank you, Leah.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And with that, we are at time. So I'd like to thank all of our attendees today for joining us, and a big special for his presentation.
Well, thank you everyone for joining with me. And again, I appreciate your patience with me as I try these new models of speaking and presentations. And I apologize for coming up short, but hopefully some of you got a little bit of time back in your schedule, and it gave us some time to pinpoint this session into some of the core areas that people are dealing with or struggling with.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much today, Andrew, and I look forward to everyone joining us on our next webinar. It's coming up on October 17th, where we speak about building a process to optimize your customers' lives.
Thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, everyone.